Okay, I'm delighted and excited to introduce Dr. Cormac Farrelly, consultant radiologist in the Matter. Thank you for joining me, Cormac. It's a real pleasure to have you here. And as part of the Clinical Innovation Award, formerly the Cleveland Clinic Award, you are one of the winners of this prestigious award. So today, this conversation will be about your journey and I suppose your experience with innovation and the Cleveland Clinic Award. So I suppose we'll kick off. I'll ask you to introduce yourself, please.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for this opportunity. No, I'm very happy to talk about this, the Innovation Award. It's been a great help and it's been really useful. My name's Cormac Farrelly. I'm a consultant interventional radiologist in the Mater Hospital in Dublin. Just to give you some background, I graduated from UCD. I specialized in radiology and did the bulk of my training in St. James's Hospital in Dublin, and then went to the States where I specialized in interventional radiology and spent a year in Chicago, San Francisco, and then was on staff in the University of Pennsylvania for 3 years. And it was really in the States where I got kind of introduced to the whole culture of medical device innovation. I guess interventional radiology is what it is doing minimally invasive procedures with any imaging guidance, and therefore it's very technology based, depending on how good the imaging is and also the devices that you use. And there's a real culture within interventional radiology of device development. And for example, in San Francisco, there's a well-known IR doctor there, Ernie Ringer, who I got to work with in the University of Pennsylvania. Got to meet with Constantine Cope and Tim Clark, and just people who have had experience developing devices, and got some insight from them and got interested in it through them and through the whole speciality.
That's great. I suppose it's seeing it in action really kind of shows you what is possible and how you go about doing it. I suppose in your own words, how did you get involved in the Cleveland Clinic Award? I suppose from the perspective of the problem that you'd identified in that.
Yeah, so it was interesting. Then I came back to Ireland in 2013, and had a few device ideas and had my eyes open to potential problems. And I guess identifying the problem is the first key thing, and then trying to think of a solution from there. But with regards to this idea, once I had the idea, I was happy to find in Ireland the infrastructure really is there. It's great. The universities are open to this, and they are encouraging innovation. So my first step was to go to the technology transfer office in UCD, so UCD Nova, and just contact them there and let them know I had an idea. They were immediately very supportive and put me crucially in touch with the right people, namely Eoin O'Cearbhaill, who's an engineer in the UCD Medical Device Design Group in the Biomedical Engineering Lab in UCD, and he's worked on device development in the past and really guided me in the right way and let me show me what the steps and I need to take and what to do about it. And it was pretty clear after a few discussions with him that really the first step would be to apply for an innovation award, and that's really through Eoin, who introduced me to the fact that it existed, and then got a hold of the application form, and it took a bit of thought, and it does take a bit of thought and planning to put the application in, even though it's quite a short document. But I think it's very doable as a clinician, and any medical device worker, obviously it's open to, so you don't necessarily need an engineering or technical background.
Exactly. Yeah, this is really for those of you working in the clinical space who are seeing the problems, and you kind of mentioned it there at the top that you had identified a number of problems that you were trying to develop solutions for, and I mean that is a key part really. there's a few other things as well I want to comment on. Then I want to come back to the problem journey. You mentioned you linked in with Nova UCD, and that's their technology transfer office. And we had Fanula Brown from NUI Galway's tech transfer office on Friday, and that video will be available as well. So they are approachable, and they provide, you know, signposting in the first instance, really, you know, depending on where you are with your idea, and they linked you in with Eoin O'Cearbhaill. And Eoin as well is going to speak in one of these seminars, or webinars. But they have that kind of expertise. They don't necessarily have to be, they have that experience. They don't necessarily have to be, you know, the expert in the area that you're interested in. They need to know about it, but they provide the supports, like even pointing you in the direction of grants. They know this sort of stuff. They know where to go. Anyway, I thought that was...
No, absolutely. It's crucial. And I think that even not just the universities, but the hospitals are becoming more aware. I know in the Mater Hospital now, they have the Pillar Centre has been initiated, which is, you know, really there to help. One of the main reasons it's there is to help drive innovation and help healthcare workers with ideas to again point them on the right pathway and towards the infrastructure that does exist. It's just a matter of accessing it. And, you know, like you say, identifying the problem, like no one knows the problem like any healthcare worker who's working in a very specialized area. It doesn't have to be an Einstein of an idea, you know, necessarily. Not everybody's exposed to the problem, and being open to thinking to solutions and going to the right people afterwards is key.
Yeah, I suppose the Pillar Centre you mentioned there, it's Professor Seamus Morris and Erin Daly in the Mater that are very focused on the medical device side of things, and I think it's Siobhan Manning beyond process improvements there, and those guys are like very approachable. Really excellent setup they have there. In terms of the problem, and we're speaking kind of in generalities here. From your experience, when you identified a problem, what was that process for you in terms of validating it and, you know, proving that it exists as a problem, or was it so obvious that people bought in straight away, or was there a bit of work to do?
No, I mean, obviously there's work to do, but, you know, I think first of all, seeing the clinical problem and whether you can affect patient outcomes and help patients as a healthcare worker is the first thing that, you know, that's there, and you see that, and you try and come up with a solution. But a second step, if you like, in terms of getting somewhere with innovation is and even on the, you know, for your application to an innovation award, is identifying is there a market? Will people, you know, is the market large enough? First of all, is the problem applicable to enough patients? And also, you know, is what you're suggesting novel enough that will make a real difference in terms of access to care, safety, you know, better patient outcomes? And also, are there people willing to pay for this? Is it, you know, is the infrastructure there for this to be commercially feasible? And I think even, you know, obviously that's part of what the award is for, is to investigate that, but it is a good idea to kind of get a broad idea of the size of the market, you know, for the application, because it really helps strengthen, you know, not just that there's a niche clinical need, but that it's broadly applicable to lots of different health settings around the world.
We might jump into that, but I want to ask just a question first, probably just to give some context as well. Would you mind kind of describing your own, where you are now, the project that you're working on, and where it went from the feasibility through to commercialization fund, and kind of what's next, just to give people, I suppose, the high level understanding of, you know, what you did and what's in store.
Yeah. So, you know, after being successful with the Innovation Award, that gives you funding to do the main thing that I think that's useful is to do a commercial feasibility study. So, you know, the steps involved with that once you have the award and Enterprise Ireland and again the transfer office in university, so Nova UCD in our case, helps identify people who may be appropriate for doing this feasibility study. So for example, in our case, we talked to 3 or 4 people and got quotations and talked to them in terms of what they thought needed to be done. So getting, again, the infrastructure, being put in touch with the right people to do this is key. And then once you do that and you prove that there's a market, but not just that, so you identify the problem, it's real, you identify the competitors, the existing solutions, and see how useful they are, how well they work. And then key is looking at your solution and is that better than the existing solutions out there, and really just putting that on paper, and seeing clearly, is there an advantage to your, or potential advantage to your idea. And then the commercial feasibility study helps identify the market. So in our case, not just, so what we were working on is an embolization device, so blocking blood vessels, which, there's many procedures now. It's grown from initially just stopping bleeding kind of proximally in the vessel to evolving into many procedures, including treatment of cancers. And the commercial feasibility study helps focus on, at least in the very short term, what's the advantages of your device, and should you be focusing on one procedure rather than a broad spectrum of procedures. So that was useful for us in terms of focusing in on 1 or 2 key procedures initially, where our device would be potentially useful. And that has implications down the road in terms of, what size of a device we need. Is it for bigger vessels or small vessels? So, overall, the commercial feasibility study confirmed there's a market there, confirmed there's a potential advantage to our device, and focus in on what procedures specifically it would be useful for. And then when you gather all that information together and you have the report, obviously you feed back, and Enterprise Ireland are in touch, and you talk about whether the feasibility study is a success or not, or whether there's, it's worth pursuing further. And it may not be, and there's no point going down a road if it's not, there's no point putting years of work basically into something that ultimately is a low chance of success. But if the feasibility study suggests that it is worth pursuing further, the next step, at least for us, we thought was applying for a commercial feasibility, commercialization fund from Enterprise Ireland, which is, significantly more money and a more involved application. But ultimately that proves successful and gives you, 2-year funding up to, in the region of $500,000.
Yeah, that's it's fantastic. It's a stepping stone. Kind of the feasibility shows that there is an opportunity here that's worth pursuing. And I like the way, and we've kind of spoken about this before on other information sessions. It's around identifying the current solutions and knowing what their advantages and disadvantages are, so you can fit your solution into the gap, kind of in some sense. And there's probably many gaps. And the other thing I was picking up on there, 2 other things. One was the scalability side of it, looking at the different markets where your solution could work. It's generally never just one area. There are multiple indications, and I suppose it's probably about doing the most prominent one first and then moving on to the next ones.
No, absolutely. And I mentioned that the specific procedures that might be useful, but as well as that, the feasibility study delves into the best geographical regions and the best health systems, that are likely to reimburse for this. And, maybe they do loads of these procedures in the States and not so much in Europe, or vice versa, or whatever it might be. But it helps, focus in on where the most, of these, where it might be most useful, and then getting further into it, looking at regulatory pathways and where it might be better and easier and less resistance to go to, for in terms of getting approval down the line, be that FDA approval or CE mark.
And that's really important, because people, who are looking at this may think that they have to do it all themselves, but they, you don't, like what you said, you engage with the tech transfer office, they connected you with somebody or pointed you in a direction, and then using their knowledge and expertise, you kind of move it on a bit further, you get the feasibility fund, the report is completed and contains information on all these different areas like regulatory, reimbursement, markets, like geographically and different procedures or indications. It's a huge body of work that all fits in then to the commercialization fund application as well. So, whilst you led it, you didn't have to learn how to do all these things in huge detail. It was completed in that piece of work, which turns out to be, saves your time as well. No,
absolutely. And I think, starting off, sometimes naively, some of us think, oh, we can do nearly all of this ourselves, or we don't need to be need the help of that many people, but you quickly learn that's wrong. There's a lot of different expertise that's needed, and really that the overall real strength of this process and of Enterprise Ireland and this innovation award is that it's opening the gateways, putting you in touch with the right people, and they know other people, and it expands out, and it's you quickly realize you can't do this yourself.
and I suppose the caveat I always put in here is, people be very kind of protective. They do want to do it themselves. They want to have that ownership, but they're afraid too that people might steal their idea or run with it. And and it's hard to explain to people, there is so much work involved in developing an idea that very few people would have the capacity to even consider trying to steal an idea and develop it, particularly in the medical device space. I don't know if that's something you're learning.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, and you learn who to trust and who to talk to. I think, obviously bigger device companies have more capability to do things quickly. So there's, you can be healthily a little bit cautious who you talk to. But this idea of, you have to keep everything completely to yourself, and, you won't get anywhere if you do that. You have to trust some people, and it's as I said before, you just can't do it by yourself. You need help, and this is and the people that Enterprise Ireland put you in touch with know that as well. So it's all you're talking to the right people.
That's what I was just going to say. It's not to be as flippant as I was there, but like as you're saying, once you engage kind of through proper channels, through the tech transfer offices or the Enterprise Ireland, or whomever, Health Innovation Hub, they understand the confidential nature of what it is that you're doing, particularly around the solution. So they will put you in touch with people who are, hold similar values, and they're there to support it as opposed to take it. And
absolutely.
Yeah,
and the other thing is then that the transfer offers, the technology transfer office, they have confidentiality agreements done up that are pretty quick, that you can send out to people and get signed, and so they know how to protect what you're doing as well. So again, you're talking to people who know how to put you in touch with the right people to talk to, but also how to have the documents ready to go to quickly sign, and so that you've got some protection there.
Super. I'm just looking at the clock here now, and we're pushing on 17 minutes. So I think we'll get the last couple of questions in here. So I suppose, fairly straightforward one. Where are you now, and what's next?
So lucky. So as I said, the Innovation Board allowed us to do the Commercialisation Fund application. That was successful. So that officially started October last year, 21. Because with some slight delays with COVID, etc. But so we're now, 3/4 of the way through our first year of a 2-year project. We are already and need to be looking for funding, because obviously it isn't just 2 years and you're done. If it's going well, you're going to need further funding to extend out. We're looking at planning out the best ways to do that. I should say the as part of the commercialization fund, and talking through, we've been put in touch with people again. We have a core team of 4 people. So I mentioned Dr Eoin O'Cearbhaill already, but through the business leadership program in Enterprise Ireland, they put us in touch with other people. So we've got Tom Fitzmaurice, who's our commercial lead, and Sajad Salamanji, who's our technical lead. So there's a core team of 4 of us. with, and even Tom, who's a commercial lead, has a background in engineering and working with medical device companies. So it's great to have, a technical expertise as well from him. So, we've got a nice mix of 4 people with different special interests, with different areas of expertise. And I think that's key to, again, the process is building the right team, people with the right expertise, and people you can work with, people who you get on with. And again, it's one of the core strengths of this process is EI puts you in touch with the right people and help steer you in the right direction, and you go from there.
No, that's it's brilliant to see it developing, and I suppose in hopefully 18 months time you'll be on to the next phase and probably aiming towards market shortly thereafter.
And having a spin out company then obviously is key to that process. We'll be looking to that next year.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It is fantastic. It's a success story, and we'll follow it with interest. And then lastly, and we'll let you go, and thank you so much again for your time. But what advice would you give to people thinking of applying for this award?
I think believing in what you're doing. I guess everybody likes to think, there'll be a spin-out company and it'll lead to a lot of financial rewards and stuff. But you got to believe in your concept. You got to believe clinically, like you do day to day when you're helping patients, that this will help patients further, because it's going to be a long process. It's not going to be 2 or 3 years. It's going to take time. So like anything, if you enjoy it and you're really interested in it, that time it's a lot easier to focus and I think be successful. So I think make sure it's something you're interested in, something you believe in. As part of this process, you make sure there's a market there for it, because whether there's a small market or a large market, is going to take the same amount of work to get approved, to get it out there. So you may as well make sure it has got it. It's going to help a lot of people, hopefully, at the end of the day. And ultimately believe in yourself and back yourself, and it's never going to be completely smooth the whole process, but just keep focusing, keep the head down, and as I said, there's lots of other people to help along the way. And really, Ireland, it's interesting, we know there's lots of pharmaceutical companies and med tech companies who have their headquarters in Ireland now, but around that I've learned that a whole cottage industry almost, you could as well. A lot of other industries exist with expertise in be it, and we're using some of these companies, be it Aaron Medical, for example, who are helping us put covers on our devices. And there's a whole infrastructure there, not just within AI, but within companies that exists, and it's really the right place at the right time, hopefully.
Yeah, no, fingers crossed. Listen, Cormac, thank you so much for your time.